Hi everyone, welcome back. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. Sometimes the smallest decisions change everything. If I hadn't gone home that Tuesday afternoon, I might still be living a lie and probably still be married to someone who was cheating on me in my own house. My name is Nathan, and this is how a work presentation I almost missed ended up saving me from a marriage built on deception. When I met Carla, she had just gotten out of what she later described as a messy relationship. Her ex had been controlling and emotionally abusive, the kind of guy who made her question her own judgment and worth. He'd isolated her from friends, criticized her career goals, and made her feel like she wasn't capable of making good decisions about her own life. The relationship had lasted almost 3 years, and by the time Carla finally found the strength to leave, she was emotionally exhausted and deeply suspicious of men's motives. She'd moved back in with her parents temporarily while she rebuilt her graphic design business and tried to piece her confidence back together. When we started talking, I could tell Carla's mind was completely closed off to the idea of getting involved with someone new. She'd put up walls that seemed impossible to break through, and every interaction felt like she was waiting for me to reveal some hidden agenda or controlling behavior. When I asked for her number after our first conversation, Carla said she wasn't interested in dating anyone and needed to focus on herself. When I suggested we meet for coffee again as friends, she explained that she was still healing from her past relationship and didn't want any complications in her life. But something about Carla made me want to prove that not all men were like her ex. I wasn't pushy or aggressive about pursuing her. I just consistently showed her through my actions that I was different from what she'd experienced before. I'd stop by a coffee shop she usually frequents when I knew she'd be there, asking about her work projects without expecting anything in return. While she was guarded, she did talk to me. I'd listen when Carla talked about her struggles with rebuilding her business and dealing with difficult clients, offering encouragement without trying to fix her problems or give unsolicited advice. I made it clear that I respected her independence and had no interest in controlling or changing her. She gave me her number and we kept in touch. Gradually, over the course of several months, Carla started to see the good in me and began to accept that I wasn't in her life to hurt her like her ex had done. She started opening up about her past, sharing stories about her childhood, her dreams for her design business, and her fears about trusting someone again. The walls Carla had built around her heart started coming down piece by piece as she realized I was genuinely interested in knowing her as a person, not in molding her into what I wanted her to be. She began to believe that I cared about her happiness and success rather than just what she could do for me. We soon began dating after Carla finally opened up to me completely. It took about 4 months of patient friendship before she was ready to give our relationship a real chance, but the wait was absolutely worth it. When she finally let me in emotionally, it felt like I'd won the lottery. Carla was everything I wanted in a woman: intelligent, creative, independent, and beautiful in a way that took my breath away every time I looked at her. She was working hard, and I admired her determination, talent, and resilience after everything she'd been through. I believed I was her type, too, based on how she'd talk about our future with genuine excitement and hope. Carla would tell me that I made her feel safe and valued in ways she'd never experienced before, and that our relationship had shown her what healthy love actually looked like. After a year of dating and getting to know each other deeply, with both our parents' blessings and encouragement, we got married in a small ceremony. The timing felt perfect, not too rushed, but not so long that we were just going through the motions of a relationship that had run its course. Carla had clearly healed from her past relationship trauma and was ready to build something real with someone she could trust completely. I was ready to commit my life to someone who I thought shared my values about loyalty, honesty, and partnership in marriage. To me, Carla was my ride or die. She was the person I wanted to share everything with: good news from work, bad days when nothing went right, random thoughts that popped into my head, and big dreams about our future together. I couldn't imagine my life without her, and I genuinely thought she felt the same way about me. I managed to balance my work as a marketing analyst with coming home to Carla on time every evening. I was good at my job and respected by my colleagues, but I never let work take priority over my marriage. I'd be home by 6 p.m. most nights, and we'd cook dinner together, watch movies, and talk about our days. For the first 3 years of our marriage, everything seemed ideal. We had our routines and plans to start a family in a few years. To me, what we were building was supposed to last forever. Then came one Tuesday afternoon that shattered my entire world and showed me who my wife really was. That day started normally. I was in the middle of preparing for an important presentation to potential clients that afternoon, a project that could bring in significant revenue for our company. I'd spent weeks putting together the proposal, creating detailed charts and projections that I'd saved on my personal flash drive. Around 1 p.m., as I was getting ready to head to the conference room for the 3 p.m. meeting, I realized that my flash drive wasn't in my laptop bag, where I always kept it. I checked my desk drawers, my briefcase, and every pocket of my jacket, but it was nowhere to be found in my office. Then I remembered that I'd been working on the presentation at home the night before, making some last-minute adjustments. I must have left the flash drive plugged into my home office computer when I went to bed. I didn't think it was necessary to call Carla to let her know I was coming home, since I wouldn't be spending any time at the house. My plan was simple: drive home, grab the flash drive from my computer, and get back to the office in time for the meeting. The whole trip should take maybe 40 minutes, and I would be back early enough before the meeting. I got in my car and drove the familiar route to our house, thinking about the presentation and hoping the clients would be interested in our proposal. I wasn't worried about anything other than making sure I had all my materials ready and that the meeting would go smoothly. When I pulled onto our street, I saw a car I didn't recognize parked directly in front of our house. It was a black SUV that definitely didn't belong to anyone I know. Instead of pulling into our driveway like I normally would, I parked a bit further down the house, wondering who might be visiting Carla. I walked up to our front door, fishing my keys out of my pocket and not thinking about anything other than the possibility that Carla might have someone over for lunch. She sometimes had people over during the day for work meetings or social visits. I unlocked the front door and walked into our living room, and immediately saw something that made my whole world pause. It made no sense to my brain at first. Carla was making out on our sofa with a man I'd never seen before, with their clothes scattered around the floor in different directions. I stood there frozen, trying to process what I was seeing. This wasn't a business meeting or a friendly visit. My wife was having an affair with a stranger in our house, on the furniture we'd picked out together, in the space where we'd built our life as a married couple. I was heartbroken, devastated, and completely unable to believe what was happening in front of me. The woman I'd spent months convincing to trust me, who I'd married and promised to love forever, was betraying everything we'd built together with someone I'd never even seen before. When Carla and her affair partner finally noticed me standing there, they broke apart abruptly and jumped up from the sofa. The man started scrambling to put his shirt back on while Carla grabbed her clothes and tried to cover herself, both of them looking shocked and panicked at being caught. Carla immediately started pleading that it was all a mistake, that she hadn't planned for this to happen, and that she could explain everything if I'd just give her a chance. But I couldn't say anything in response. My throat felt like it was closed, and my mind was completely blank except for the image of what I'd just witnessed. I walked straight into my home office while Carla followed behind me, probably unsure of what I was planning to do or get. I unplugged the flash drive from my computer, put it in my pocket, and walked back out of the house to my car without saying a single word to either of them. For the rest of that day at the office, I wasn't myself at all. I felt like I was moving through thick fog, trying to function normally, while my mind kept replaying the scene I'd walked in on. Every time I closed my eyes, I could see Carla kissing that stranger on our sofa. I managed not to mess up the presentation with my emotional state, but it was obvious to everyone in the room that something was seriously wrong with me. I got through the meeting on autopilot, giving answers to questions and showing the charts I'd prepared, but my heart wasn't in it at all. My boss was in the meeting and kept giving me concerned looks throughout the presentation. I was afraid he might confront me afterward about my performance or ask what was distracting me, but he didn't say anything when the clients left the conference room. When it was time for me to close for the day, which I usually did around 6 p.m. so I could get home to Carla, I couldn't find any strength to leave the office. Instead of packing up and heading home, I kept working on tasks that I normally would leave until the next day. I was going through emails, organizing files, and working on projects that weren't urgent, anything to avoid having to go home and face Carla and whatever conversation was waiting for me there. Even though I couldn't concentrate on anything properly, I kept forcing myself to stay busy. I didn't know how late it had gotten until my boss came by my desk when he was closing for the day. Most of the office was empty by then, and I was still sitting there staring at my computer screen, going through the same task over and over without really accomplishing anything meaningful. He looked at me with genuine concern and said, "Nathan, come with me." He didn't ask if I wanted to leave or if I had plans. He just told me to pack up my things and follow him. I shut down my computer, grabbed my jacket, and walked out to the parking lot with him. We got in our separate cars, and he led me to a quiet bar about 10 minutes from our office. It was the kind of place where you could have a real conversation without being interrupted by loud music or crowds of people. We found a table in the back corner and ordered drinks. My boss looked at me across the table and asked directly what was wrong, because he'd noticed that my behavior had completely changed from what it was in the morning to something totally different in the afternoon. He said it was obvious that something significant had happened, and he wanted to know if there was anything he could do to help. I completely broke down and told him everything. How I'd gone home to get my flash drive and found my wife, Carla, with another man, how they'd been making out on our sofa with their clothes scattered around, and how she'd pleaded that it was all a mistake when they got caught. I explained how much I loved Carla and had cared for her throughout our entire relationship, how I'd spent months convincing her to trust me after her abusive ex, and how I'd thought we had something real and permanent. The betrayal felt like it was destroying everything I believed about our marriage and my judgment of people. My boss listened to everything I said without interrupting me or trying to offer quick solutions. He just let me pour out all my pain and confusion while he sat there patiently, occasionally nodding to show he was following what I was telling him. After I was done explaining the whole situation and had gotten all my emotions out, he asked me what I planned to do next. Did I want to try to work things out with Carla? Was I thinking about divorce? Had I decided anything about how to handle this situation? I was shocked at how direct the question came. I told him honestly that I didn't know what to do. I felt completely lost and couldn't think clearly about anything beyond the image of walking in on my wife with another man. I hadn't been able to process the situation enough to make any decisions about my marriage or my future. My boss reminded me that no matter what happened with Carla or how this situation was resolved, I was the one in charge of my own life. I could allow what I'd seen to completely destroy me and define my future, or I could decide on the next line of action and stick with it, regardless of how difficult it might be. Then he told me about his own experience with betrayal. He said he hadn't been married in his situation, but there had been a woman he was completely devoted to who had also cheated on him. He'd planned to propose to her and had thought they were building toward marriage and a family together. When I asked him if that betrayal was the reason he'd never officially gotten married, he nodded and said yes. He explained that he'd never been able to get beyond that betrayal and had never trusted anyone enough since then to make that kind of commitment again. My boss, however, told me he wasn't asking me to be like him or make the same choices he'd made. But he wanted me to understand that the power to move forward with my life or stay stuck in this painful place was completely in my hands. I could choose to let this define me, or I could choose to take control and decide what came next. We sat there for another hour, having a few drinks and talking about life, relationships, and the difficulty of trusting people when they've shown you they're capable of betraying that trust. He shared more about his own experience and how it had shaped his approach to relationships over the years. When we finally ended the night and went to our separate cars, I felt grateful to have a boss who cared enough about me as a person to spend his evening helping me process one of the worst days of my life. His perspective and advice had given me some clarity about my situation. When I got home that night, Carla was waiting for me in the living room with a prepared speech about how the affair was a mistake, how it had been an unplanned situation that got out of hand, and how she wanted to work on our marriage and rebuild my trust. She explained that the man I'd caught her with was a personal trainer from her gym who had been helping her with her fitness goals. According to Carla, they developed a friendship that had gradually become inappropriate, and that afternoon was the first time anything physical had happened between them. Carla insisted that she loved me and didn't want to lose our marriage over what she called a moment of weakness and poor judgment. She said she was willing to do whatever it took to repair the damage and prove that she was committed to being faithful going forward. But I had absolutely nothing to say to her in response. I couldn't find any words that seemed adequate for the situation, and I didn't trust myself to speak without saying things that would make the situation even worse than it already was. From that night forward, and for the next couple of days, I completely ignored Carla while I contacted a divorce attorney and got the legal process started. I didn't respond to her attempts at conversation, didn't acknowledge her apologies or explanations, and didn't engage with her efforts to discuss our future. I slept in the guest room, left for work early, came home late, and generally acted like Carla didn't exist in my life anymore because, to be honest, she didn't. I needed time to process what had happened and make decisions about my marriage without being influenced by her emotional appeals or promises to change. The divorce case eventually got to court, and we got legally divorced within a few months. The process was relatively straightforward since we didn't have children together and hadn't accumulated many major assets during our short marriage. Carla didn't contest the divorce or try to drag out the proceedings. Throughout the entire legal process, I felt like there was absolutely no way I could forgive Carla for having an intimate relationship with another man in our house, on our furniture, in the space where we'd built our life together. The betrayal felt too fundamental and too disrespectful to overcome. The image of seeing Carla with another man on our sofa haunted me constantly until the divorce was completed and I could start moving forward with my life. I couldn't stop thinking about how long the affair had been going on, how many times they'd been together in our house, and how naive I'd been about what was happening. Looking back on everything now, I still believe in love and the possibility of finding someone trustworthy to build a life with. But I'll never again be with a woman who would cheat on me in my own house and then claim it was just a mistake that didn't mean anything. My boss's advice that night at the bar probably saved me from making the mistake of trying to reconcile with someone who had shown me exactly who she was when she thought I wouldn't find out. Some betrayals are too fundamental to forgive, and some people show you through their actions that they're not worthy of your trust. I'm grateful for that forgotten flash drive, as strange as that sounds. If I hadn't needed to go home that afternoon, I might have continued living in a marriage built on lies for months or years longer. Sometimes the worst day of your life is also the day that saves you from wasting more time on the wrong person. The whole experience taught me that actions reveal character in ways that words never can. Carla could apologize and make promises about changing, but what she did that afternoon showed me who she really was when she thought no one was watching. That's the person I would have been married to, not the person she pretended to be when I was around. Today, I'm rebuilding my life with a much clearer understanding of what I will and won't accept in a relationship. I'm not bitter or closed off to love, but I'm definitely more careful about trusting people and more aware of red flags that I might have ignored before. My boss and I still work together, and occasionally we'll grab drinks after work and talk about life. He's become more than just my boss. He's a mentor and friend who helped me through one of the most difficult periods of my life. I'll always be grateful for his wisdom and support during those dark days. The lesson I learned is simple. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. Carla showed me that she was capable of betraying the person who loved her most in the place that was supposed to be sacred to our marriage. That told me everything I needed to know about our future together. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is discovering the truth about someone before you waste any more years building a life with them. My marriage to Carla was short, but it taught me valuable lessons about trust, respect, and the importance of choosing partners who share your values about loyalty and commitment. I'm in a better place now than I was during those confusing months when I was trying to make sense of Carla's betrayal. Time and distance have given me perspective on the situation and confidence that I made the right decision to end things quickly rather than trying to rebuild trust that had been fundamentally broken. The flash drive incident changed my life in ways I never could have predicted, but ultimately it led me away from a marriage that was built on deception and toward a future where I can find someone who actually deserves the love and commitment I have to offer.